Hello, everybody, it's me, Ross, and welcome to KOA Retro, where we look back at classic season, classic matches, and players from the past. Today I'm joined by Dan as we discuss the 1991-92 season, where Town won the second division title and went into the first ever Premier League season. Dan, it's a pleasure to have you on. I'm looking forward to your memories, going down memory lane. Let's set the scene of that season then, Dan. And John Lyle's second season in charge. We finished 14th the previous season. Not a great season, really, if you look at it on paper. But Dan, you're a young lad, a young teenager. Give us a little insight on how you were feeling that season and what was going on summer of 1991.
I was 18 I'd just turned 18 in May. I'd left school. I've been following the Town for about 3 years via the London branch mainly. I started supporting them following them when I was about 14. Forever grateful to Tony Moyes at the London branch and my mum and dad for letting me go up and down the train. Although I was born and bred in northwest London, I had a mucker, a partner in crime called Dan, who was going with me at the time. He's still my partner in crime and going to Ipswich 30 years later. I was working at Wembley Stadium, funnily enough. It was my first job since leaving college. And I remember on my 18th birthday, I walked downstairs. My dad had got me 2 tickets for the FA Cup final on the kitchen table, Tottenham versus Nottingham Forest, when Gascoigne did his ankle. And I sat about 15 yards away from Princess Diana. It was just ridiculous. My dad made contact lenses for the chairman of Tottenham at the time. Anyway, I was so much into football, got a job working at Wembley. Any spare money I had basically went on watching Ipswich. But the expectation levels, no one expected. There was no expectation at all of what would happen. As you say, I think we'd just come 14th. John Lyle's first season. He had stabilised the John Duncan era, who had then gone. But we were a firmly mid-table side going into that season with some big clubs in the division. And it was just an adventure that was an incredible adventure that no one was expecting. But it will forever live with me because it was just a brilliant, brilliant season.
And if you watched the 1961-62 video we did for KO Retro, we go through the months. We're going to start with August, Dan. So let's go and see what happened at the start of the season.
Yeah, I remember not just before the start of the season, we played Norwich in the Hospital Cup in the pre-season. And to put this in perspective for more younger viewers, on the bench that day for Norwich was Christian Walton's dad, Mark Walton. And we lost that game 3-0 to Norwich. So we were on a bit of a downer. First game of the season, Bristol Rovers away. Very sunny Saturday afternoon, went down to Twerton Park in Bath and we were battering them. We were 3-0 up, playing some great stuff. I remember standing behind the goal with my mate looking at the rolling hills in the background going, well, we're on easy street here. And then a scrawny little teenager called Marcus Stewart was playing for the Gas up front. He won a penalty that they actually missed and they got it. And then he was instrumental and they got it back to 3-3. And it was like, oh, here we go again. Another draw, but they were good signs. We played well and, but it was another draw. And it was the first game of the season, which we should have won.
We should have done indeed. And I'm going to bring up the fixtures now in August. And so you mentioned 3-3 away draw with Bristol Rovers and a 2-1 home win over Port Vale to start the home campaign with a win. Then another 2-1 home win over Middlesbrough and then a 2-1 win at Blackburn Rovers. Other games you want to pick out from August?
I think just a few interesting things from that start of the season. Obviously, we were top of the league at the end of August after those 3 wins. Port Vale, our crowd was 9,750. Yeah. I mean, that was the apathy going on at Portman Road at the time. And football in general, a little bit, stadiums were in a bit of decay. Hooliganism hadn't gone away. This was the season leading into the Premier League. No one knew what that was going to be. Going to football wasn't a brilliant experience in a way, like it is now. And there was just a lot of apathy, but we won those 3 games. We beat Port Vale 2-1 at home, and then we beat Borough 2-1, who were to be promoted with us at the end of the season. And in retrospect, that was a big win. But we were playing okay. And I remember the Blackburn result. Obviously, Blackburn were the talk of the league because Jack Walker had just come in the summer, and he had come in with all his money. They didn't have Dalglish then. We played them up at Ewood when Dalglish wasn't there, but they were the talk of the division. And funnily enough, I remember that day, I was working at Wembley at a Guns N' Roses gig, walking around the stadium selling programs and I remember rushing home after that day, and I remember turning on teletext of all things because it was pre-internet, and it came up 2-1 win, and it was like, wow, can't believe that, 3 wins in a row. I think Paul Goddard, who was a new signing at the time, scored the winner, and it was like brilliant start to the season. And I remember that kind of everyone was talking about Blackburn, and we went and beat them.
And yeah, as you can see, it was an unbeaten start. So, I'm sure there's a lot of positivity going around at the football club. Let's get into September then, Dan. And we start September with a big defeat at home to Swindon Town, then a 1-0 win, home win against Southend, then a 1-0 defeat at Barnsley, a 1-1 draw at Newcastle, then a 4-2 home win over Bristol Rovers. And we finished the month with a 2-1 win against Grimsby Town. Which games do you want to pick out from September?
Yeah, I mean, they were... I mean, the Swindon result, it was a massive crowd at Portman Road. It went up to 11,000. And then Glenn Hoddle turned up and they counter-attacked us to death. We had a few lads out injured, I remember, but they taught us a bit of a lesson, beat us 4-1. But we recovered. We beat Southend, who had just come up into the division. Obviously, a local rival at the time. I think Neil Thompson scored a penalty. We beat them. So we recovered pretty quickly from that Swindon thrashing, and I remember going to the Barnsley game, which was a bleak day, and we lost there to a late goal. We got a good point at Newcastle, who were struggling, but we got, and then Bristol City came into town, and Bristol City at home, I remember we played some really good stuff, and it was like, blimey, we're a completely different team here to last season. I remember Terry Connor scored a goal, I think, he was playing for Bristol City. Terry Connor scored in front of the North Stand. Pretty good goal from memory. But we had kind of like, we were beginning to gel. And again, we were kind of up towards the top of the table. And it was, really only a couple of defeats. And then we went and won at Grimsby. And they had come up as well with Southend. I mean, you look at those clubs now, like Southend and Grimsby are both struggling in non-league, and at the time we were playing them in that momentous season. But we won at Grimsby. Remember David Lowe, who was probably my favourite player back then. I think he scored the winner. So brilliant start to the season. I was still kind of going where the money was with work and going to Ipswich as much as I could. So it was like I was having the time of my life in September.
It was, and October was a month for draws. We started with a 2-1 home win over Oxford, but then a 2-2 draw at Brighton, a 0-0 home draw with Millwall, a 1-1 draw at Pompey, and another 1-1 draw this time at Charlton. So a month for draws, but still an unbeaten month.
Yeah, still unbeaten. We were the games were a bit more closer to home, Millwall and Pompey and Charlton and Brighton. Brighton, I remember massive, really clearly coming out of the station and big crowd going into the Goldson, and we got a draw there. Pompey away, we got a draw, and I think Steve Witten scored, and we were just, that was more, we kind of were beginning to slightly revert to type by now, because we were picking up these draws, and actually we weren't blitzing teams at all. Apart from that Bristol City win, we weren't blitzing teams, but we were just hard to beat. I remember the 1-1 draw at Charlton was actually at Upton Park, because I think the Valley was being built at the time. And I remember being behind the goal at Upton Park, and Charlton absolutely battered us. And we got away with a 1-1, and Craig Forrest was in goal, was fantastic. And I remember around this time, one of the best bits of transfer business at Ipswich I've ever seen, where John Lyall had brought in John Walk from Middlesbrough on a free transfer back to the club. John Walk had, I think, fallen out of sorts with the Middlesbrough manager, Lenny Lawrence. We'd invited him to train. We signed him on a free transfer, and we sold a guy called Brian Gale, who was a centre-back at the time, to Sheffield United for £800,000. So we replaced Gale with Walk and made £800,000 in 1991. It's a little bit like kind of selling Tyrone Mings to Bournemouth for £8 million and whatever it was, picking him up on a free. But yeah, I remember Walk coming into the club. I had never seen him playing, and it was like we had brought in a player there clearly that was an upgrade, and yeah, again, unbeaten. Like, you know, I think it was to get a bit worse after this, but we had started off the season really well.
We did indeed, and yeah, November was maybe one of the blip months, and yeah, it started with a home defeat, a 1-0 home defeat against Sunderland, and a 2-1 home defeat against Cambridge. Well, we'll speak about that. And then a 1-0 defeat at Derby, a 2-1 win though at Wolves, and a 4-0 home win over Tranmere. So we finished the month well, but we start the month really bad, and the Cambridge result is probably the big standout one from November.
Yeah, they had come up under John Bett with a really direct brand of football. They had some really work hard, good players. They came into the division as, let's face it, as upstarts. And they, you know, Cambridge came to Ipswich wanting to put our noises out of joint. Sounds familiar. Happened a few weeks ago, didn't it, really, when they came to our place? But they came to us. There was a big crowd. There was like 20,000. Portman Road could hold 27,000 then. Obviously, it was like mainly standing as well, but there was 20,000. So you can see, like, the crowd almost doubled. And Cambridge, that was mainly Ipswich fans coming along. Cambridge brought some fans, but they beat us. They beat us 2-1. And I remember that really kind of stinging. It was quite annoying. It was like we wanted to do Cambridge and we were playing well. They obviously beat us, and I think that put them up right at the top of the league as well. And yeah, we were a little bit down. We were a little bit struggling now. This run had carried on. We lost to Derby, but then I think for me, when I look back at that season, that win at Wolves was one of the moments of the season where that win was massive, because we'd on a bad run. Wolves a decent side, and it was an intimidating place to go. I remember going up there, and it was like, yeah, this is like, you know what I mean? There was a big subway right by the ground. You couldn't see the light at the end of the subway, and it was pretty intimidating. There was a lot of Wolves fans. You walked in there, you went into the game, and we won 2-1. I remember Jason Dazelle scored a cracking goal, and then David Linnigan scored, I think, the winner off a corner right in front of us in the away end. And yeah, that was like, I just vividly remember that day and the journey back to London and thinking, that was a big win. And we then followed that up with the Tranmere game, and that seemed to, at that point, when Walkie had settled in, things began to settle down a bit. I think we kind of needed that, and it really got us going. We started off again after a pretty poor few months.
Yeah, and before we get into December, I wanted to mention the Four Members Cup, because we played Chelsea that season in the third round. We lost on penalties in the end at Stamford Bridge, but playing against Chelsea, Chris Cormier scored twice that day. Of course, losing on penalties is disappointing, but I just wanted to bring that in because the cup run, because we'll talk about the FA Cup run in a bit as well. But what's your memories from playing Chelsea?
Yeah, I mean, it was like it was brilliant for me, because it was just like, it's a chance for Ipswich at Stamford Bridge, and it didn't matter back then. The cups were different back then. You would put out relatively strong sides. You wouldn't have squad rotation. You would have a go. And it was like, well, we've drawn Chelsea away, and so we went down to Stamford Bridge, and again, I think, you know what, I think it was about 6,000 or 7,000 there on a Tuesday night. But it was, Chelsea obviously weren't what they were then, what they are now, but they had they were developing Stamford Bridge, and they had Vinnie Jones, I think, and Dennis Wise and Kevin Wilson, who used to play for Ipswich. And we went there, and to be fair, we did all right. We matched them, we took it to penalties. And again, looking back on that, it was like, I think that kind of performance at that kind of stadium just added to the confidence. Well, we're not going to be ashamed by, and we can go there and do well. And I think, as you say, that probably fed through into the cup run.
Yeah. And let's go into December then, and the fixtures go as this: a 1-0 defeat at Plymouth, but then a 0-0 draw at Swindon, then a 2-0 home win over Charlton. I'm reading it and I still can't bloody read it. And then a 2-1 home win over Blackburn over the Christmas periods. A bad month, but which games would you like to pick out?
I went to the Plymouth game. I went to Home Park, and it was like, I remember it being, we were terrible, and I think we lost to a fairly late goal, and it was like all day on the train there and back. Although at the age of 18, that was an excuse to have a few drinks with your mates, so it wasn't the end of the world. But I remember, I was going to these grounds for the first time. I didn't even know where Plymouth was, just looked a long way away. And we went down there, and then I think out of those games, without doubt, again, we were drawing away. We weren't getting thumped, and we were drawing away. And then Blackburn was a memory of that season. There were probably 23,000 at Portman Road. I have a feeling it might have been in between Christmas and New Year. They had appointed Kenny Dalglish by then. They hadn't got in Shearer and co, but they were throwing money around Blackburn, and they had Kenny Dalglish, and everyone was talking about them. And they took the lead quite early at Portman Road, and that game was a proper top of the table clash. And Portman Road was bouncing, and I remember being the only place I could get a ticket was kind of in the Cobbold next to the Blackburn fans, and it was a good atmosphere, and we came back to win it. And and we played really, really well. Like, we really did play well, and I'm not sure if it was Kiwami or Dizelle with the winner, pretty much in front of me, and that for me felt like, okay, that we put that Cambridge result to bed a bit. We've got a big crowd, and we've come back to win. And I remember Dalglish after the game being pretty gracious about it, which is rare for Kenny Dalglish, and kind of saying, you know what, Ipswich deserved to win that. And again, just another little result that gave us momentum, and I think that really helped winning that in front of a big crowd, because I think the fan base was starting to believe then. I think Ipswich has got that kind of crowd where you've got the hardcore loyal fans, but when we get in a roll, when we get some momentum, it's a big enough town that people come out, and that was the first signs then where people were really starting to believe in it. And I have a feeling we may have. I think the cup run was coming up, and we were on a really decent run now.
Yeah, great way to end the year as well, with two wins going into the new year. And we'll go into the January fixtures, and of course we didn't have many fixtures because of the FA Cup games, and we'll get into the FA Cup shortly. But let's quickly go through the January fixtures in the league. Start with a 2-1 win at Port Vale on New Year's Day, then a 1-0 defeat at Middlesbrough, and then a 1-0 home win at Bristol Rovers. And what a way to start the year, going all the way to Port Vale on New Year's Day. I don't know who went to that game. Did you go to that game?
I didn't go to that game because I was scarred by. We always seem to play Port Vale away on New Year's Day. One of the quirks of the fixture list. And I do remember going up to Port Vale. It might have been the year before, or 2 years before, under John Duncan, where we were on a really long unbeaten run, and we lost 5-0 to Port Vale on New Year's Day. And that was scarred for life from going there. I wasn't going to go there again. And retrospectively, I think John Watt was with us at the time. When his autobiography came out, he said that clearly the players had been out on had a night out in Port Vale on New Year's Eve, apparently, which is why we got thumped 5-0. But I didn't go to that, but we won 2-1. In fact, I didn't go to any of those games in January. I'm not sure why, but as you can see there, look, once again, like 2-1. 2-1 wins, 1-0 wins, and a 1-0 defeat at that's a 1-0 defeat at Middlesbrough. But we were a team that we ground out wins. We could play, definitely we could play, but we weren't blowing teams away. We just worked hard and we ran hard, and then we had some individual brilliance, and those results are kind of indicative of that. John Lyle, I always thought was brilliant at that kind of tactical ability and team spirit, and then it really started to get exciting, I think, around February.
It did. And before we get into the February fixtures, and of course, some of them tied over to February as well, but let's talk about the FA Cup run. We started with a game against Hartlepool in the third round. We had to go to a replay and go all the way up to Hartlepool and beat them 2-0. Then we played Bournemouth. We beat them 3-0 at home. And, of course, then the classic games against Liverpool, the 0-0 at Portman Road, and, of course, the 3-2 defeat against Liverpool. Of course, Gavin Johnson's great goal. But talk about your memories from the FA Cup run that year.
Yeah, I've got some really, really good memories. I mean, funnily enough, that Hartlepool game, we should have lost. We should have lost that home game. I think we got bailed out with a really late equaliser. And then I think we went up to Hartlepool like 3 days later. No time to rest. FA Cup replay straight up there. Beat them. Bournemouth was in the fourth round, and I think we comfortably beat them 3-0. And you know what? Like what I was talking about, the cups, the FA Cup then really meant something, and we were putting out our full strength team, and we got a massive crowd for Bournemouth at home. It was when these things are all like an added bonus, and we obviously beat Bournemouth at home, and then we drew Liverpool, and it was just like happy days. This is like unbelievable, We've gone to Chelsea, and then we got Liverpool at home, and we were flying in the league. Liverpool at home, I think we got 26,000. It was a really, really, really windy day. It was on Sky, so it's just like, this is just ridiculously exciting as an Ipswich fans. They had Graham Souness, I think, as their manager, but they were a really good side, but probably in retrospect beginning to plateau a bit. And we did all right at 0-0. And to be quite honest, it was just like everything I was interested in was going to Anfield. It was just like nothing else mattered. I would take time off work. I would bunk off whatever I was doing. And I will never forget Anfield away. It was that was the first ever stadium I've been to with Ipswich, which was a big top team, and it was a Tuesday night in the FA Cup, and we had I remember sitting in the away end. We had the whole of it. You can see it on YouTube. If anyone's not watched that game, watch it on YouTube, because it was unbelievable. There must have been it was on Sky. There must have been about 6,000 or 7,000 Ipswich, and we just took it to them. We took it to them, and we played so well. And Gavin Johnson got a late equaliser in front of us. It was just one of the cross from the right from Steve Whitten. He had hardly any space, and he just put this ball in, and Johnson literally right in front of us comes running in. It was just a magnificent goal, and literally the hairs went up in the back of your neck, because you just turn him round and everyone is going potty. Everyone's falling over. Everyone's on the ground. We couldn't believe it. Just to get a goal at that was good enough. And then we went ahead. Yeah. We went ahead in extra time. And I just remember, because we scored in front of the Kop. Jason Dazelle scored in front of the Kop, and he was put through. And I just remember Dazelle going through, going, shit, he's through. Our best player is through. And he just put it away. And it was just like, no, this can't be happening. This is getting late now, by the way. All right, this is we got the train up, and this has gone into extra time in Liverpool on a Tuesday night, and we lost 3-2. we lost 3-2. They got 2 late ones in extra time. Steve McManaman, and then Jan Mulvey scored a free kick, which he probably moved the ball forward about 10 yards from the incident, Mulvey, but he put it in. And I remember that thinking, I am just so proud. I am so, so proud. And a lot of people were just saying, bloody hell, how good were Ipswich? Because they'd seen it on TV and it was a great match. And it was such a brilliant experience. I remember my dad giving me a lift home that night. And he had been working in Edinburgh. He'd met me at the ground with my mates, and we'd driven back to North London after the game. I think we got back about 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I was trying to stop my dad from like falling asleep at the car wheel because he'd been working all day. And it was just like, I was part frightened to death because I wanted to get home, and part buzzing because I'd just seen us at Anfield. But I will never forget that Gavin Johnson goal. And even now when I watch it on YouTube, it's just like, the noise at that noise you get when you score a big goal, it like heightens. But you knew then it's like, you know what, if we can keep up our league form, we have definitely got a chance here because of the way we played against Liverpool, without doubt. And I'm pretty sure that definitely gave us a kick.
Yeah, it did, because February was an unbeaten month in terms of league fixtures. Started with a 3-2 win at Millwall, then a 5-2 home win over Pompey, then a 1-0 win at Tranmere, and then a 2-0 home win over Plymouth. So a fantastic month, including the FA Cup run, an unbeaten month that probably helped us cement ourselves in the top half of the table.
Yeah, that month there was when we really put our foot down on the accelerator, and I vividly remember Millwall away. Millwall back then had a reputation. You know, they had Sheringham up front. I think he scored 40 goals a season before. It was horrible, the old Den. It was, you can see that on YouTube somewhere. But I remember going there, and it wasn't a nice place to go, and it was really intimidating. But it was standing again. We were penned in the corner. There was a good number of Ipswich. We were behind the goal. I've got some photos somewhere. And we went 3-0 up. And it was just like, again, some of the football we were playing was absolutely brilliant. And I remember when we went 3-0 up and Chris Kilwarmy put us 3-0 up, it was down the other end in front of the Millwall fans. Some of your viewers might remember when Chris Kilwarmy used to score, he used to like run towards the corner flag and do this, like, whatever. He did this dance. And I remember, if you watch it, he's put us 3-0 up. He's forgotten where he is. He's run towards the corner flag, and he's doing this dance. He's just gone, nah. And he's turned around and walked back, and just like walked back as if like, what am I doing? But we were 3-0 up. And I remember Mill coming back with 2 late goals, but we were never really in doubt. And I remember after that game, to be honest, absolutely buzzing, but couldn't show it. It was like, just hide it. You're 18, you're at Millwall. Wait till you get out of Bermondsey or what have you. And then the Pompey game was an amazing game. I remember that one that was the first time we had really taken a team apart. And we were absolutely flying that day. And Kwame and Giselle scored twice. And I took my brother, who was a Fulham fan, and he was living with a Hull fan. And I said to them, "Come!" Like, they weren't doing anything. I said, Come and watch Ipswich. Come and watch Ipswich. And I remember really turning it on. I mean, we were absolutely brilliant that day. And I remember them thinking, "Blimey, yeah, you're a pretty decent team." And I remember, that Portsmouth win was massive because they were a pretty decent team. And by then we were just completely flying. We were so confident, and we were on this run, and it was getting really exciting now. There wasn't long to go. And you knew, this was when the playoffs were happening, of course. They relatively just started. And we knew that, we're in the playoffs by the looks of it. Let's see how far high we can get up to. And we had some big away games coming as well.
We did indeed. And March was, let's take it away. A 1-0 win at Watford, then a 0-0 home draw with Leicester, then a 2-1 home defeat against Watford, and then Cambridge. We couldn't beat Cambridge that season. 1-1 draw at Cambridge, then a 2-1 home win over Derby, and a 2-0 home win over Barnsley to get ready for a big April ahead. But March, good month, but that draw against Cambridge will always probably haunt us because we couldn't beat them that season.
I remember I went to the 1-0 win at Watford, and I walked to that, which was a bit weird. We used to walk to Watford and have a few cans on the way with me and my mate Dan. We won at Watford, that personally was like a big win because I knew a load of Watford fans, and we scored a late winner through Steve Whitten. I didn't even realise that we lost to them 2-1. That completely escaped my memory. But yeah, Cambridge away was a really good day out, and it was weird. We sold out. I remember selling out really quickly, and it was no seats. And again, you can see this on YouTube. It was packed in the Ipswich end, and because of what had happened earlier on in the season, and they had beaten us, and they were massive rivals at the time, and two teams with distinct styles. And fair play to them, they did what they did, and we were a bit more pass and move type team. And that was just a great day out. Quite nervous on that one, just remembering that I think a lot of Ipswich fans don't want to lose to this lot. Really don't want to lose to this lot because they're up there and they're, up there in the division, and they thought they were our rivals when they really weren't our rivals. But on the pitch, they were like a promotion rival. And we went 1-0 up, and it was like happy days. And then they equalised with a bit of a dubious goal, which possibly now would have been ruled out. I think Forrest had his hands. It might have been knocked out of his hands with a back header or something. But I remember that, and I remember being kind of relieved and thinking, well, we haven't lost. And I remember before the game, this is how starstruck you are when you're a kid. Got to the ground quite early, and I saw Steve Palmer, Palmer was like a proper utility player for us. He was certainly not one of the stars of the team, but I remember being massively starstruck by seeing Steve Palmer before a game. It's the kind of frame of mind I was in. But that was one of the big day outs, definitely of the season in terms of away fans. And then, I think that Barnsley win was a big win, maybe on a Tuesday night, and Derby. So you can see here, I just narrow wins, but we were just grinding it out.
That doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we got promoted that season. And April was a month. There's some iconic matches in April. Yeah. Maybe not a 0-0 draw against Grimsby, which will come up in a second. But a 2-1 win at Southend, which is one where I'm sure you're going to focus on. A 2-1 home win over Wolves, then a 3-2 home win over Newcastle, a 3-0 defeat at Sunderland, and a 2-1 defeat at Bristol City. So back-to-back away defeats there. 0-0 home draw with Grimsby Town, and of course the 1-1 draw at Oxford that everyone talks about because that was today. But take it away.
I remember Southend so clearly, and it was just like probably that Southend game was the biggest away game I've ever been to with Ipswich in the league. It was a business end of the season. A win that day, we kind of had a really good chance of going up. And again, it was like, I remember it being like a really sunny day, so excited, Ipswich everywhere. I mean, we had a lot behind the goal. Again, this is on YouTube. You see how packed it is. I remember standing we went 1-0 down as well. And they were a rival, Southend, and they had come up and they really wanted to beat us. And we went 1-0 down, attacked towards us in the second half. And we had I'm sure people know, we signed a guy called Phil Whelan, who kind of came from nowhere, a big, lumbering, think like of an early fridge, massive unit. He was from Manchester as well, Phil Whelan, and he scored in front of us with a header. And I just remember him doing that right in front of the stand, and it was just limbs everywhere. I remember being in the corner flag where the corner was taken from. And then Neil Thompson, who's one of my favourite players, just not long to the end, stormed through, and he just had a howitzer of a left foot, Tomo, and he just will never forget that. He put us 2-1 up. No, I mean, I remember that because, I mean, we didn't know you lose your senses. You just lose your senses, don't you? And even the players on the pitch didn't know what to do. They're all running in different directions. And I just remember John Lyle just being like the calmest man, just like the calmest bloke. He just sat there in the dugout in his trench coat, implacable. Nothing fazed him while bedlam was happening. But that Southend day was, absolutely huge. And the next 2 games were just... Those 2 games, the Wolves win and the Newcastle win, were like... After those 2 wins, we knew that was it. For me, I knew we would done it. I knew we would done it. I really did knew we'd done it. And the Wolves one was a Tuesday night. For personal reasons, I remember that. I remember driving up in my little yellow Mini. It was like Mr. Bean's yellow Mini. Driving up the A12, got to a place called Hatfield Peveril, and the A12 with 2 of my mates, and the whole of my windscreen smashed about 5:30 in the afternoon. A stone hit the window. I didn't know what to do. I was 18. I pulled the car over, didn't have a mobile phone, didn't know what to do, just wanted to get to Portman Road. Walked into Hatfield Peveril, not really knowing what I was looking for, a garage, and I remember a van, came by, a Glazier's van. It was like a miracle had been sent to me. A Glazier's van, and I flagged him down and I told him what happened, and he came round, looped all the way round back the A12, smashed my window in, fitted a new one, and said I'd send you the bill, and I still made it to kick off on time. It was ridiculous. I don't know how I always was that. Parked the car up, and we beat Wolves. Phil Whelan scored again. So he'd like come into the team. He'd scored 2 winners with headers in probably his first 2 games. It was unbelievable. And like Wolves were again good team, and that was just a brilliant win. And then the Newcastle win was just, for atmosphere, was one of the best games I've ever been to. They were in relegation trouble. They just appointed Kevin Keegan, who was like a messiah for them. It was packed. They brought a few fans, which meant there was a good atmosphere. And they went 1-0 up and then 2-1 up. And it was just like, oh, no, this can't be happening, because we knew we had some tricky games coming up. And then we scored 2 goals in front of the North Stand. Johnny Walk scored for like a bullet header right in front of us, and the place erupted. And then about 10 minutes later, towards the end of the game, we scored such a good goal. We were flying down the right flank towards the North Stand, and ball came in, and Kwame just put it in the back of the net. It was absolutely electric. I remember him running off, and a load of his mates ran on the pitch and were hugging with him from the co-op stand, whatever it's called. And that Newcastle game was kind of like, we really now just need another win or just some points to get us over the line. And of course, us being us, I didn't go to Sunderland and I didn't go to Bristol City. I must have been working. On reflection, I can't believe I didn't go to those, because the title was on the line. But we lost those 2. Obviously, Sunderland, they had just come down. And I remember Sunderland, of course, they had got through they were really deep in the FA Cup that year. And I thought we might do it up there, but we didn't. Bristol City, we didn't. And then Grimsby at home, they'd just come up. They weren't doing anything, packed out of Portman Road. Jason Zell, I remember, it was just nervy. We really wanted to do it, and we didn't really turn up. And Dazelle hit the post quite near the end. It was then all off to Oxford. And I just remember getting a ticket, which I was just made up about. And then I think I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning. We got into Oxford at about 11 o'clock in the morning. There was Ipswich absolutely everywhere. We all knew that a point would get us promotion, or a point at least. And then it was just, the old Oxford ground was a weird old ground. It was all like different shaped stands and big kind of fences at the time. in the early 90s, and you know, you couldn't see much of the game, but you just had to be there. And I remember obviously Jim Magilton was playing for Oxford, scored for them in front of us. I remember that. And then down the other end, ball went into the back post, kind of Gavin Johnson got the end of it, kind of creeped and looped into the corner. That was 1-1 at half time. So it's kind of like the relief of that day was that we kind of, off the back of those 3 non-winning games, we were losing again, but we responded quite quickly. And the second half was we just got over the line. We probably could have won it, but we were just content with the point. And just obviously then it was in a way lucky that we were at Oxford and they had nothing to play for. Do you know what I mean? Because they just opened the gates, and I mean, it was just like everyone was on the pitch, just, you know, hugging strangers, just couldn't believe it. Just like, you know, that was it. We'd done it. It was like, I remember just getting back to where I lived. It wasn't too far away, so eventually got back and just stayed in the pub all night celebrating. It was just tremendous. No one would have expected it, but the memories of that, and I just really, really, really hope that the younger generation can see a bit of that, because I say to my son now, and I show him the mural of the team, you know, that's gone up. So you can never take that away. You can never take that away from me. I've seen us win in Europe. I've seen us win at Wembley, and I've seen us win a title. And I just would love the youth to experience that, because it was just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And there was a few players on the pitch. I remember John Walt was walking around with no top on, and he was just like a god. And it was brilliant. It was just couldn't believe it. And the other thing was, although the Premier League was on the horizon, it wasn't like you were getting into the Premier League. You didn't know what the Premier League was going to be. You just wanted to see us win the title. And it was just the fact that, well, we've been to Liverpool and I've been to Stamford Bridge, and now we're going to a few other clubs. And then it was all back for the Brighton game, which was unbelievable. One little thing, we won 8 away games that season. The week we won the title, we won 8 away games. Not one game did we win by more than 1 goal. It was either 2-1, 1-0, or 3-2. And that, for me, that kind of summed us up. Hard to beat, ground it out. Mentality was brilliant. And what was good about the Brighton game was that it was 27,000. I think they brought a lot, Brighton. They had been in the playoffs the year before, had sold a load of players and got relegated that season. And I came with a few mates who were Brighton fans who were in the away end. The only place I could get a ticket was in the Churchmans with my mate Dan. So we stood in the Churchmans, and it was just a party. It was just the party atmosphere. It was unbelievable. The team came out, did a team photo beforehand, lifted the trophy in front of 27,000 people. David Linegan, he wasn't even playing. He did a John Terry. He came on in his full kit. Linegan comes on in his full kit, lifts the trophy, buggers off back to the stand. Yeah, and do you know what? It's a great memory, that one, because we could, you know, it's like we've done it. You could have easily fallen on your face, but we were really, really good. We beat them 3-1. And it was just one of the best games I've seen us play, actually. And we'd won 3-1. And it was just like it was like another excuse for a pitch invasion. And this time it was slightly different. You know, I remember running down all the way from the Churchmans all the way to the North Stand and waving to my Brighton fans that were in the away end, kind of saying unlucky. And then so that was, what was that? That was May 1992. Yeah. Just like a fantastic end to the season. And I remember then the week after that, I actually worked at the FA Cup final, which was, funny enough, was Liverpool, who knocked us out, had got to the final. They beat Sunderland in the FA Cup final. And I remember that. And then the week after that, I worked at Wembley, and it was the European Cup final. It was Barcelona against Sampdoria. And it was like, again, I was selling programs, and it was just like, looking back on it, it's just like how brilliant for me was that, watching my team win a title, everything else that was going on. It's just fantastic. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Sorry if I've bored everyone to death, but it's been brilliant to talk about it.
Oh, mate, it's been a pleasure. I've been a nodding dog throughout this video, but I've been getting goosebumps. Of course, sadly, I wasn't alive when this all happened, but it's always great to hear memories from fans who were there. Dan, I'm putting you on the spot here, but I'm always going to do my standard, the one word to describe the season as a whole. What is the word you would bring out? And you can expand, of course.
One word, I think that whole season was euphoric. And the reason is there were high after high after high after high. Just when you think you can get higher, something else came along. And it was this general feeling of euphoria from, like I said at the beginning, really low expectations. And I think that kind of made it even better, you know. No one was talking about us. So, you know, if we can get there, but what I would say just before I finish is, like, a lot of the thing is, when we went up from the Championship in 2000, whatever it was, last league game at Wembley, it was at Wembley, and we'd gone through the playoffs after all those years. And Wembley was such a significant thing to win there in front of 80,000 people. I sometimes feel that 91-92 team get a little bit forgotten, because we'd done it over the season, and last Ipswich team to ever win a title. And it's every time now I go to Portman Road, I will always see that team on the Portman Road stand, and I was there. So euphoric. I'm feeling it now. I might have to go for a lie down, mate.
Oh, mate, it's been an unbelievable pleasure to have you on there. Some great memories. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people watching this and in the comments sharing their thoughts, sharing their memories. So get involved. I'm sure every year we're going to celebrate that team, because, they're the last team to win a title at the football club, the second division title. Dan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. And once again, thanks everyone for watching another KOA Retro. We're bringing many more of these throughout the months, the years, and all that sort of stuff. Let us know which games, which seasons, which players you'd like us to talk about. We'll bring you them very shortly. Anyways, bye-bye from me. Thanks again, once again, Dan.
Cheers.